Gus Garcia, engineer, operator, Merge Combinator. Sir, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So, focus of one of the talks that you gave here at the IndoPAC event was on something called Sigma blocks. As I understand it, a community of sorts. Tell me, how did that come to be?
Well, I think that the best way to explain that is to just sort of talk through the perspective that I've had living and breathing defense tech here in Oahu and in the islands and in the theater. I have a background as a operator, pilot, Navy and Air Force, and then eventually medical reasons decided to take a shift and find something different. And fortunately, I kind of found this compelling narrative of defense technology modernization and just how important it was to actually get capability into the hands of people that need it as fast as possible. And as I studied that, worked that when I was inside the military and inside government, I saw a lot of commercial solutions that looked really interesting, looked like ways that industry was using to solve that. And so we spent about a year drafting up a plan for taking one of those industry commercial models and applying it to national security problems. And that was Sigma blocks.
Some of those issues that you raise there tie back, at least to me, to speeding things up significantly for folks who are either working in an enlisted or a civilian capacity for the Department of War. You know, you need to leverage these technologies that are cutting edge, that are commercial in their capabilities, but going through the procurement process can be a real challenge. How have you seen this sort of speed things up in that respect?
Well, first, couldn't agree more that the ability to acquire this stuff, as I've learned and worked with mentors and other folks that have been doing this for a really long time, is difficult. Acquisition is difficult. And while I was in service, I was working with program executive offices, decision makers out of OUSD, joint staff, interviews with CAPE, or you name the organization. I had never even heard of them before, but they were coming and wanting to talk about what we had seen, observed, and how it was going. And often they were here to help in one way or another. But it's interesting how those extremely complex systems almost end up creating or delivering the wrong outcomes, or potentially even opposite outcomes from what they strove to achieve. At least in my experience, a lot of the problems that we have in this theater, closer to the edge, regardless of your career field, they're actually pretty simple and misunderstood. It's very, very easy to have scope creep or make turn those small problems. It can't possibly be that simple, and make them larger and larger. An example here was one of the program executive offices I worked with. It's called Kessel Run. Kessel Run has a tremendous history. A lot of great people have been there when it started and are still there today. But when they brought to me some of these challenges and how they were trying to solve it, they described there's 11 air operation centers around the world for the U.S. Air Force. And each of them is a little bit, different theater, different mission, just slightly different. And their IT and information systems are a bit messy, complicated. If you have ever heard the phrase, if you've been in one AOC, you've been in one AOC, because they're all different. Everyone is a wooden shoe. These are the common things they would come in and say, yeah. But they were here to solve that. They were here to deliver and build the information system that and weapon system, as they called it, that was going to standardize an enterprise solution for all of the air operation centers. And it took me a while to realize, maybe, but also there's maybe that's a feature. The fact that they're custom configured and tailored for the mission might be a feature and not a glitch. And that we have to find a sort of balance between the unique, maybe bespoke, what they need at the edge, versus the big, easier to manage, easier to ship at a massive enterprise scale. So it's been quite a journey.
For the Indo-Pacific region specifically, Gus, apart from just the sheer size, the magnitude of it, what are some of the sort of really individualized challenges presented by Indo-Pac? What do you have to make things bespoke for, just for the Indo-Pacific?
That's a lot to unpack. I think Admiral Paparo, current commander of U.S. Indo-Pacific, might include that it's half of the globe. So I think we just don't even, it's hard to appreciate the tyranny of distance. And while there's a whole bunch of like nuanced, technical, even social challenges with that huge size, one that may often get overlooked that I think we actually see reflected in our own acquisition and internal processes that I just was talking about, and that is distribution. Like just your expertise that you might need to fight and win in a theater like this is distributed all over the globe. Some of them are in CENTCOM, some of them are in EUCOM, a lot of them are in various places in the continental US, plus just this theater alone. All that expertise and talent is distributed. Of course, we have new, better technology that can help, Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever we might be leveraging internally to try and get people on the same page. But I've always found it really interesting how that ability for that network to, let's say, respond in crises effectively as like one big team is very similar to the challenges that we face to build and deliver like a technology from a program executive office located in Boston, Massachusetts, all the way to into this pointy end of the spear in the first or second island chain.
One reason I reached out to see if you'd join us for this program is because it's called Innovation in Government. And you've been at the heart of a lot of these innovations for the military for a number of years, based in this really strategically important region. How do you feel about the word innovation? Like, how do you draw that down out of the ether, bring it back to earth? Like, how do you, as a technologist, make sense of that?
So when I transitioned from my flying career and moved over into modernization efforts, I got to work underneath an incredible mentor, Colonel McFarland, call sign Nasty. And in the time that I worked with him, I was there originally just a sort of action officer to get after some of these challenges, and we eventually organized into sort of what I described as an innovation cell. I don't think I ever heard him use the word innovation. I didn't expect you to ask this question, but it is interesting because to some people it's like a dirty or bad word. And then I actually also hear other folks, whether political or in leadership positions in this theater, and they use the word innovation very flattering. You know, they actually embrace the word. I don't care about the semantics, but I do think the modernization efforts and the velocity that we need to be able to keep up with what's sort of happening outside of the U.S. federal government and defense and Department of War, like we certainly need some measure of disruption to keep up.
Briefly, as we wrap, do you feel like Hawaii specifically is a great test bed, sandbox, whatever word you want to apply to it, for that kind of innovation, and why?
I do. It's a little nuanced. One major popular commercial vendor brought and succeeded with a forward deployed engineering model. They're going to put the engineers right next to the end users that understood the problem. That's not a perfect model. It's really hard to replicate. A lot of people are sort of shifting in that direction. But one of the reasons that I think that's so important is that one of the reasons I think that is so important is that as the technology is moving so fast, it is very difficult to keep up at a sort of enterprise level where you're building a big complicated system that takes maybe a couple of years to deliver to need. And when you finally show up with this like point solution, it's maybe not even relevant any longer. And so what I've experienced here in Oahu is while Washington, D.C., the Pentagon, and that entire ecosystem has a lot of control, levers, and authority. A lot of that money, resources departs out of Washington, D.C., and it goes all over the place. But so much of it lands like right here in Oahu, in the center of Indo-PACOM. You know, I think for a good reason, great power competition. Like, and this is where those domain experts need to be or are. Exercises, opportunities to get your tech in the field and prove and validate if what you're building matters.
Gus Garcia, Merge Combinator. Thanks so much, sir.
Yeah, thank you.